Does anybody have any additions, deletions? Seeing none. Declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Anybody? Item 4, delegations, presentations, or petitions. 4.1, the RCMP report. We have Corporal Main from the Inuvik RCMP. If you'd like to go ahead on your reports. Corporal Main, you're muted. Should be a button in the bottom left.
How's that, sir?
That's better.
Good, okay.
You'd like to go ahead with your reports?
Yeah, so good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having me this evening. I'll read from our January 2022 Inuvik RCMP report. So during the month of January, Inuvik RCMP investigated 28 reports of violence against persons, including 2 reports of assault causing bodily harm. 2 of these matters have been cleared by a criminal charge, and 7 remain under investigation for further evidence gathering and potential charge assessment. 7 of these offenses were in the context of intimate partner violence, and the Inuvik RCMP has always continued to work closely with victim services, social services, and members of the health authority to ensure continued support for victims of violence. Referrals are being made, and supervisors such as myself are working diligently to assure that these referrals are made in a timely manner. COVID-19 restrictions, unfortunately, have delayed Family Violence Awareness Week initiatives, and we are hopeful that these can resume once restrictions are amended, which the RCMP will be a part of. Road safety, impaired driving. So during the month of January, we investigated 7 reports of impaired driving. 2 of these matters have been cleared by criminal charge, and 1 remains under further investigation. A violation ticket and warnings continue to be administered to motorists, mostly inclusive of operation without a valid driver's license, operating without liability insurance, and without registration. I have organized a one-day impaired driving investigation that's going to involve our traffic services unit and a member of the Public Prosecution Service of Canada. That's early next month for the Inuvik detachment members. And I believe that this training will further enhance our road safety investigations. So with community and cultural awareness, regrettably, COVID-19 restrictions canceled a visit that we did have planned with G Division Police Dog Services to both the Children's First and East 3 School. So our school liaison designate, we have 2 of those, 1 for elementary, 1 for high school. They intend to arrange this visit once restrictions permit. So we've talked to the dog handler, Yellowknife, and they're going to make themselves available to make sure that we get this done. And at the request of family, Staff Sergeant Bruce McGregor led the funeral procession for respected elder Colin Allen Sr. Last month. And in some discussion today, there will be front desk services will be opened again at the Inuvik detachment. I know that there is a number of taxi operators that are requiring extensions or renewals of permits. So we are available to begin that process tomorrow for people. So we'll be back to just regular open service with a screening beforehand. So notable occurrences for the month. So in early January, I'm sure everyone knows now, but a vehicle had crashed into the entrance of the Mad Trapper bar. So a male has been arrested, has been charged under the Motor Vehicle Act, and criminal charges are also pending. After being arrested and charged in Inuvik as part of an investigation under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act in 2019, an Albertan male has been convicted in Supreme Court of possessing the proceeds of crime over $5,000. Sentencing for this is expected to take place in mid-March. I'm sure some of you will remember, but large sum of currency that was seized at a local hotel. This event, this next one is one that was covered under a publication ban, so the police were not able to announce the details as it occurred. But a male from Ontario was arrested and charged with drug trafficking, obstruction of justice, identity fraud, and possessing the proceeds of crime over $5,000 in May of this year. He has entered guilty plea, and is also expected to be sentenced in March of this year. These are indictable offenses, so they most often come with a custodial sentence, meaning the person will be placed in jail. So the RCMP continues to encourage people to contact Protect NWT for any COVID-19 related violations, as they are the primary enforcement agency. And as a side note, we've seen somewhat of a decline in Crime Stopper reporting. So just to put out to constituents or folks that you're chatting with, as I often do, that those reports are reviewed, they are investigated, there are file numbers associated with them. Someone who's done quite a bit of drug investigation work in Inuvik, I can tell you that those reports are extremely important. They often point police in the direction of where to look, locations, vehicles, that type of thing. So they are very helpful as a starting point. So our detachment, we received an average of just over 10 calls per day in January for a total of 304 calls for service. There's the reference table there. So this is my first time doing it. I'm not sure. I guess we go through each category. You can see that there's been a decline in person crimes as far as assaults in comparison to this time last year. Sexual offenses are at 4. Break and enters, that's both homes and businesses, was 4 for the month. Mental Health Act files, 10. Theft under 5,000, 5 of those. So a lot of those are shoplifting related. Theft over 5,000, that's not, in this instance anyway, they're not monetary over 5,000. The way that they're classified is theft of a motor vehicle that's over $5,000 will also be included in that. Drug possession, 0. It's just, possession is not something that the federal government is wanting us as police to charge people with any longer. Drug trafficking, we do have 2 reports of drug trafficking, so we continue to investigate those reports. 24 files under the Liquor Act, slightly up from this time last year. The bulk of our files, of course, cause disturbance, public intoxication, mischief, causing a ruckus inside stores or homes. 131, up from 82. Impaired driving is exactly in half as compared to this time next year. And then other complaints, those can be anything from, an animal call to noise violation or a bylaw. So we've made efforts, as always, to continue to do our very best to connect victims of crime with the appropriate services in town. We have a good working relationship with both the Diversion Committee, the Justice Committee, and Victim Services. So we continue to do that. So yeah, we've got a number of referrals that have gone into those departments. We stay in close contact with people, of course, obviously appreciating people's privacy rights, but to make sure that people follow up and make sure that they actually did get connected with the services and that they have the ability to choose whether they want to continue to participate in that or not. Emergency protection orders. So my first time doing this, but detachment initiated. We have 1. Most often they're not detachment initiated. They're most often done through Allison McAteer House in Yellowknife, and signed off by a justice and sent to our detachment. So I think in the future we'll add another category there for ones that are from our partner agencies. Yeah, and so that's the January report. Look at any questions anybody might have.
Thank you, Corporal Main. Any questions from council? Councillor Devlin.
Thank you very much, Corporal Main, and thanks as well for the great work over the Christmas holidays. The extra work that your team does out there. Thank you. I was just wondering, we did have at least one night of social media mania over vehicles being broken into. Was that taken care of? And I believe also on the same night that the Mad Trapper crash happened, a number of vehicles were stolen that night. Are we under a deluge of crime wave right now? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll speak to the first incident. There was a individual who most often resides in another community that was charged with a number of criminal offenses, including mischief to property and theft from motor vehicle. Unfortunately, that crime spree did continue on to community of Fort McPherson, where additional charges were laid. The individual is a young person. And so those matters are before the courts. Of course, we're hopeful that our court goes back into session on February 22nd. There is as you can imagine, enormous backlog. I think our docket right now is around 27 pages. So in my time in the last 5 or 6 years here, I've never seen something that large. So, but that individual was charged and is put on the appropriate conditions by the justice of the peace. For the second incident, personally, I'm not aware that there was other vehicles that were stolen that evening. The vehicle that was used was a vehicle that was known to belong to, the person knew who the other person was, that vehicle. So that was taking a motor vehicle without owner consent, as opposed to theft of a motor vehicle, because there was a relationship there.
Any other questions? Yeah, I just have a comment. Sorry?
Hello.
Yes,
Hello,
Councilor Wayne.
Hi. Did we ever get the rest of the Crime Stopper posters to put up all over town we asked for? I know it was quite a while ago. I just wonder what happened.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. I can't answer that in the moment. That's the first that I've heard of it. We've, at this point, Staff Sergeant Mark Bishop is off sick. So I've assumed detachment commander, at least in an acting position. I'm a huge proponent of Crime Stoppers, so I will make sure that if those did not get put out, that they are out by the end of the week.
Yeah, that's they actually do a really good job, and if they're all over town, that's the way it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah. People need the reminders, like anything else that we see when we're out and about. So I appreciate that, and I give you my word, I'll get that out by the end of the week if it's not out already.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, I just wanted to comment. I wanted to thank the RCMP for continuing to get impaired drivers off the road and drug traffickers where they belong as well. Anyway, thank you for that, and thanks for the report.
You're very welcome. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
You too. Good night. Item 4, delegations present. Item 5, public question period. Any questions from the public, SAO Hood?
I have not received any.
Okay, thank you. Item 6.1, the minutes of the January 24th and 26th, 2021, should be 2022 council meetings. Any questions or corrections? Seeing none. Item 7.1, the action items list. Any questions on that? Nothing there. 9.1, under new bylaws. Sorry, I'm gonna turn my page here. Third and final reading, appointing a director of finance. Any questions on this one? 9.2, the interim tax billing bylaw, third and final reading. Any questions? 9.3, property class bylaw, again, third and final reading. Any questions? 9.4, installment tax payment plan bylaw, third and final reading. Any questions on that? 9.5, property tax exemption for churches. Any other questions? 9.6, repealing a number of bylaws that no longer have any force or effect, third and final reading. Any questions? 9.7, a new proposed firearms bylaw. I guess an amendment to an existing bylaw. Am I correct, SAO Hood?
No, this will be a completely new one.
Okay. I'll go through this. So, the town has received a letter requesting an amendment to the town's firearm bylaw to enable harvesting of grizzly bears within municipal boundaries. The letter submitted jointly by the Wildlife Management Advisory Council, Inuvik Game Council, and Gwich'in Renewable Resources Board requests that the bylaw be amended ahead of the planned fencing of the solid waste disposal facility this year. This will allow them to harvest bears that have become accustomed to freely accessing the facility and who will likely pose a threat to the public once access is restricted with the fencing project. The amendment has also received the support from GNWT Environment and Natural Resources. Administration and Protective Services both support this bylaw amendment. And attached, which you should have, is a copy of the proposed bylaw. So I'll open it up to questions or comments. Anybody? Councillor Devlin.
Oh, yeah, I just had a question just about the boundary area. Is it possible, I'm not against this at all, but is it possible to restrict it so that it's within the municipal boundaries, but not within the residential areas? Do you understand what I'm saying? So certainly, I understand when we look at the map here, it's a considerable area, the actual municipal boundaries. So I understand the request and certainly the need for it in most of this area, but I am concerned about allowing this within the the very tight residential boundaries of the community. So I'm just wondering, is this an option? I see SAO Hood's hand up, so perhaps he has an answer. Thank you.
SAO Hood?
I have my hand up for something else, but earlier in the meeting, but it's certainly something, Councilor Devlin, that we could take into consideration. So the purpose is also from a public safety point of view of should once we do the fencing and that there may be situations where we may have to do something within a residential area where wildlife has come in. So if we put in stipulations where it can't be done, then under certain conditions, then we may restrict ourselves that way potentially. I'm just thinking down a couple of years down the road type of thing. Don't know if that clarifies it much for you, but there is the potential that we may have to do things unfortunately within a residential area because it could be just sort of forced that way.
Okay, no, thank you, SAO Hood. I think it was just a question of doing due diligence just to make sure that we had looked at all options. So thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Merrill?
If I could ask, thank you. Is this restricted to the wildlife officers and RCMP, or how does this work? It's not open to the general community, is it? or is it limited to emergency circumstances?
What is being added is on it is the ones that have previously peace officers, etc., were exempted under the bylaw under section 4. What we've now said is co-management boards that have authorization for certain wildlife management. So they would approach the town, they would approach ENR. And sometimes it could be, in this case specifically, assisting ENR in a situation that has been discussed over time. But no, it's very specific as to who is allowed to operate under this. It has to be fully approved first.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Councillor Gallons, you had a question?
I think it was more along the lines of really a concern. I'm just kind of thinking of just a practical point of view, having a bullet or a projectile. And I guess to Councillor Dublin's question was, how close will we kind of have it to residential areas? Because I mean, bullets can go through walls. Bullets can go through various materials. So, and then my other question was along, I guess I'm trying to understand what was wrong with the process before and why was there a call for the amendment now? That's what I'm trying to understand in my own mind. So.
Thank you, Councillor Gallen. I can sort of give a little bit of a background. Some of this request, because we know that once we put the fencing up around the solid waste site, the concern is then that the wildlife would then potentially now come into town, and we're trying to look at how we can reduce that. So we've been in discussions with ENR over what can we do, and they've been asking, because they're the ones that are requesting us to put the fence up, understanding what we're doing here. They don't have the manpower, and as a state sort of looks stated in the letter, to the idea here is to go out before they're actually coming out of their dens, and that's why this has come now, to do some of this preventive maintenance, however you would like to call it, to reduce the risk of some of the wildlife now, because once the fence goes up, some of them are very accustomed to coming into the solid waste site. We're trying to break them of the habit, so they know the ones that are like common in there, and they'll be looking at that. It wasn't a thing of, well, we need to go do this. We have been in consultation, and ENR has been in consultation with the wildlife management program as well, and these groups, because they just didn't want it to go out and do to eliminate the wildlife, because we're putting up a fence. So they wanted, and so the groups here, the hunters and trappers and that, have come back in support of what we're proposing, and that on it. As far as yes, you're correct, bullets can go through many things on that, and again, it would be a situation where it's under controlled circumstances, and only certain people are allowed to do it, for the purpose of wildlife management, not hunting. We're not talking hunting here, that they won't be able to hunt within municipal boundaries. What it is under wildlife management. So ENR would be involved, like I said before, on it. So it would be in more of a controlled environment, is what they would be doing it under.
Grant, this is Cindy. If I can add something, I think with regard to the high density residential areas, the only time that would be used would be in the case of exigent circumstances, meaning it's an immediate threat to a resident's life or property, much similar to what we were already doing with the RCMP and municipal enforcement in relation to dogs. So my understanding of this is it is a planned approach that the landfill site and the area around the landfill site will be addressed in a systematic manner. And when it comes to the high density residential, that is the last resort. So hopefully what is happening is that the animal control will be addressed prior to them arriving into the residential areas. And we are also working on public education to educate people in terms of not having any attractants out, meaning garbage, using the bins and that type of thing. So when it comes to that residential area, I think where you're concerned, councillor, it will only be for exigent circumstances. I hope that's clarified things, and it's individuals who are trained and have been vetted by ENR as well as the hunters and trappers and the other organizations.
No, I appreciate that, and that clarifies kind of, I guess, some of the context of when it might happen. I'm guessing that there's probably a kind of a gradual process when it comes to dealing with the animals. So tranquilizers, rubber bullets, and then if the animal is a nuisance, or if it, like you were saying, it's a threat, then it's live ammo.
I haven't been privy to the exact plan, but that's my understanding of how other jurisdictions have done it in the past, and I'm sure that the organizers of this initiative have been very thorough in terms of identifying what those plans are, and that they will be communicating it to the public as well.
I'd like to clarify, I guess, for Councillor Gallant's, like, if there is a wildlife threat within the town, within like a residential area, and that, then it is ENR are the ones that take responsibility, and it is up to them as far as the animal control and what methods would be taken. It's not if an animal, if a wildlife comes into town that's threatening, and that it's not these people on this wildlife management thing that are going to be doing ENR, then it becomes their responsibility within the residential area if there is a threat, so to speak, from a wildlife, not this group. This is more for, like they say, it's wildlife management. So there's a plan in place to do something. So they're authorizing these people to initiate that plan.
I appreciate the information in regards to my concerns. I guess kind of where I'm coming from is someone gets hit by a bullet or something moving fast enough. You know, what do we do? Or, you know, it just in my mind, I realized that I got to give it some thought. I've only heard about this, but in my mind, it's, you know, things moving very fast, hitting people. Just kind of have some concerns about that. So, but
I think it's a legitimate concern, but I also have to realize they've been shooting dogs and bears in town for years. Normally done in a safe fashion, and I really don't think they're going to be shooting into a crowd or into somebody's house. These are ENR officers, they're trained. They know the dangers as well as we do. And yes, I have the same concern too, but like I said, they are professionals. Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, I know now why SAO Hood's little hand was up there for a while. I missed item 8.1, pool rehabilitation project update. So, Mr. SAO Hood, would you like to go ahead now?
Certainly, and I just want to give a quick verbal update. Number one, for some of those that weren't in attendance over the weekend, and that where we are in the pool. And I'm happy to report that we are making very good progress on the rehabilitation project. Like any renovation, as you go along, sometimes you do hit a few unknowns that that then you have to sit back and alter course a little bit. We've encountered a few of those items, but that was sort of partially expected. We did receive an updated schedule from the contractor. We're now looking at them being completed around the March 29th. Now I have to confirm, but that may be also that the water is in the pool. They will be under the work. What they do is they'll fill it and test it before they sort of turn it over to us to make sure that there's no leaks, which would be a pleasant surprise, enjoyable time then, and things like that. So we've been delayed a little bit. There's other combinations, not in from a little bit of additional work, from delays in finding some supplies that they found that they needed, getting them up there, the old supply chain issue and that. So, but the local contractor that's doing the plumbing is doing a great job. They're working away. They're putting extra people on it and are making very, very good progress. So I think it's all in all, we're looking up, and that we will have a pool with water in it that people actually can go in. And I think that's the key of this, is it I won't say short-term pain, because it's been a bit of a long-term pain, but some long-term pain for longer-term enjoyment. How will we put that way? So I want to thank everybody for your patience, and for those people in the public that happen to be watching and that. I mean, we are making some very good progress, and we'll probably work on in the next sometime this week or early next week is put something out, a public update as to where we are on the pool, and maybe some pretty pictures of construction on that. But if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly welcome to take some answers as well, or make some answers.
Questions? Anyway, I'd like to thank you personally, SAO Hood, for the work you've done in getting this pool project underway and almost completed. A lot of hard work, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Moving along, and I apologize for missing you as well. Moving along, item 10.1, the Economic Development and Tourism Report. Any questions? 10.2, the SAO report. Any questions on this one? 10.3, Director of Public Works. Any questions? 10.4, Community Services Report. Any questions?
Mayor Wood, just to know, Councilor Samur has her hand up.
I don't see it, but yes, go ahead.
I just want to make a point of clarification on my report. I cut and paste and I forgot a sentence. And when it comes to the activities or the rentals and activities, all of that month, all of January was postponed or canceled. So it looks like the report looks like those were bookings that we had that went through. All of those were cancellations, the whole thing.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Moving on, 11.1, strategic priorities chart. I assume that will be updated once all the information is processed from the weekend meetings. 11.2, an information item. Aurora Research Institute has a few projects going on. Item 12, council concerns. Any concerns tonight? Seeing none. We have no in-camera items, do we, SAO Hood? I don't believe so.
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.